So first of all, while I was preparing for this, I listened to "Digging a Hole." Kind of get back into the groove. Went to
All right.
that first classic, and man, it still holds up the test of time. Uh,
It's a good recording. It's a really good recording. It was innovative for the time, and yeah, no, it still really holds up.
do you think that you've ever gotten out of the hole?
I, I'm still, I'm still digging my way out, it seems.
It's been a long journey. I mean, that was a long time ago. Uh, but I wanted to
No,
go back in time a little bit, even before all that. Back when you were a kid, you talked about how Rush was the first concert you have ever been to. Your dad took you. You have a
yeah.
way cooler dad than I have. My dad would not take me to a Rush concert. Um, when you were flipping through his album collection when you were a kid, was it Rush or maybe some other band that kind of awakened this love of music?
No, my dad was Dean Martin, Neil Sedaka, Perry Como, that kind of stuff. My parents, they had no idea what was happening with music, or especially at that time. My dad was like a 1950s guy in the 1970s, you know. Uh, but me and all my friends, they all had immigrant parents who didn't speak English, and all of a sudden there's these kids who want to go to a rock concert or a rock concert. What is that even? There's long hair and hippies, and oh, no. So the parents shut that down. All of them shut it down, and we were like seventh graders, and it was pretty traumatic for us because we really wanted to go, and I'd been begging to go to concerts for years. I wanted to go see Bob Dylan's Rolling Thunder. I wanted to go see Zeppelin. I wanted to see Kiss. I wanted to see the Stones. And finally, when Rush came, I just put my foot down. I was like, I'm going. I don't care. I'm going. So we went across the river to Detroit and waited in line and got tickets. And then the parents said, no, you're not going. My dad finally was like the peace negotiator. He got with the other dads and said, oh, God damn it. All right. What if I take them? So he didn't even have a ticket. In those days, it was a big arena concert show. It's all kids running in to see a rock show. I'm sure my dad, who looked like an Air Force guy, just, walked up and was like, oh, no, I'm taking the boys. So they just let him in. What? They just let him in. What?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a different time.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I was going to ask as a subsequent question, do you actually own a Komodo?
A kimono?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking of doing a little Rush tribute video, so I've had to go through my wife's closet looking for a kimono. We'll see if that comes to fruition. I don't know.
Let's come back to the present. You've got a new album, Eternity Now.
Yep.
Before we kind of dig deeper into that, what to you, what things do you feel are eternal? It's a coffee question.
Yeah, it is a coffee question. I haven't got to the bottom of that one yet. The coffee or the question. That the meaning behind the song is more just walking, the ability and willingness to let go of stuff and walk away from it and leave it to eternity. Leave it to the eternal past and walk towards an eternal future. That's leaving people and things behind and just making your peace with that. That's more what the song's about.
That kind of goes along with how you describe the process of redoing this album. You mentioned it's kind of cathartic. It's also a
It's been
lesson.
a pretty horrible couple of years, just between people bailing on us, people betraying us, people getting sick and dying, people getting sick and getting well. Just, life took over the recording process, and it puts things in perspective. It's just a rock and roll record. We'll be fine. The record will eventually come out. I just had to really put it into a different, for so many decades, it was just everyone focused on the record, the tour, the show, the record, the tour, the show, the video, the promotion, go, go, go. Everything else took a back seat to that. But then, when someone in your family gets cancer, there's a number of things that happened in our lives that made us go, okay, how really, really, how important is that compared to what's happening right now in the moment? And so we reassessed everything, and it's an amazing mental freedom one gets when you let a bunch of things go. All of a sudden the creative flow was a lot easier to get into. The album kind of wrote itself after that, where it was just, I suddenly have thought about a lot of things. Let's
No, it's a big lesson. In business, there's something called sunken costs, where you've invested in a project so much that you don't want to let it go, because you say, I invested so much time and money. But pressing delete, that moment in your head when you press delete, what did it trigger? What was that feeling you got right after you said, okay, no, it's done, we're starting fresh?
Yeah, it was real freedom. Yeah, it was real creative freedom. Because there have been some calamitous events throughout our whole career, and I've always fallen back on the notion that, okay, well, let's say there's a publishing dispute, or there's some dispute over, like royalties, something that ties up a song, you can't use it anymore. I'm quite content with the knowledge that I can do this. They can't. I can just make another one. I can make another song. I can make more music. I can play the guitar solo again. Working in the studio for as long as I have, it helps to get comfortable with the idea of sometimes you lose the best take. Your best take is not the band's best take. Sometimes there's an issue with the data, with the tape, with the machines, with something happens and a performance is lost. And some people never get over that. It's like, well, but that was the take. That was the best one. That was the take that was going to make history. If you're any good, every time you plug your guitar in should be history, right? Like, yeah. If you allow that flow to happen and not get so hung up on what you just did, just let it go. Something else great will channel through you if you're relaxed and open to it.
Yeah, I definitely believe in that, and I think that there's a lot of deeper lessons there that we could probably go on for hours, is talking about how that relates to life. But you're the first person I'm interviewing after the COVID-19 pandemic. Your album kind of has a lot in common with COVID-19. The initial making of it was filmed with, like, it was a crisis, right? There was that tragic loss of life. There's all this negative vibes, influences. You kind of self-quarantine yourself with your wife, and you refocused and rebuilt it. How different in the DNA is this new album to what was left behind?
It's almost like the old album, the old version of it. I mean, it's not like I'll never say never. It's not like those songs can never come out. I mean, maybe someday they'll be relevant at some point, but it just seemed like there was an entire record that was about a certain thing that involved a group of people with a common cause. And then when that was no longer valid, I couldn't conscionably stand there and sing the songs, and I couldn't stand in front of a microphone and sing them. And I wasn't feeling it, and I didn't feel like putting any more effort into something that was going to benefit people who bailed. It was like, well, hold on a sec now. So after all that, you're going to up and leave, and now I'll continue to do the work, and you'll collect half of the money for no longer doing anything. Well, that was not the point of starting on that endeavor, is that we're all in this. You know, we've always been creatively very generous with people in the band. It's never been a democracy. We're not a bunch of dudes who grew up listening to rock and roll, playing rock and roll in dad's garage, and, you know, then finally making it. So there's none of that. It's not a, like I said, it's not a democracy where everybody has an equal say. I've always paid everybody and taken care of everybody, but in doing so, I've also always provided people with a forum for their creativity, because I want people's contribution. I think it makes a richer experience for everyone, as opposed to everyone just do what I tell you. Here's the parts, learn them. Here's the parts, learn them. How do you filter it through what you do? What, you know? So I've been a benevolent dictator in that way, I suppose.
Oh, the CEO, the Chief Experience Officer.
Kind of, yeah. So, so in, you know, staying open and involving people and making sure everyone's rewarded fairly for their contributions, that unfortunately every once in a while comes back to bite you, and that people then, you know, hold on to control of things. It can be a nasty business, and people feel entitled to things that, you know, without the knowledge of how much money actually gets sunk into a thing. Anyway, I don't want to go too far down that path, but, you know, it's that the previous record, it just became more to do with things like that. I thought, man, this is not that record was supposed to be the rebirth and a new attitude and this positive move forward. And then it just became this horrible negotiation and lawyers and stuff like that. I was like, nah, you know what? You know what I can do? I can make another record. You can go pay your lawyer and you can fight about it all day. I'm not. I'm done. You go ahead and do what you do. I can just write more songs. I can just write more.
That shows
So we did.
An abundance, you know, this concept of abundance, that there's tons of creative ideas, and you're better off to keep creating than holding on to, as if you're all greedy for all these old ideas. So that's what you're doing.
No. There's no love lost for old ideas. And even since making Eternity Now, you know, when Gerry passed away, I was left with a very heavy heart, but also this great legacy of recorded music from Gerry that had never been released or been utilized. Just some great bass playing, some great rhythm tracks for songs that never became songs. So I took it upon myself to start resurrecting some of these things and incorporating them into my creative world, just to keep Gerry's music alive. You know, so I keep Gerry with me every day in the studio. You know, I've got his basses back here. I've got his recorded, you know, body of recorded works here, and I feel like he can still speak to me. You know what I mean? So
Gerry
he's
is
a hard dude to lose. You know, so that's led to an immense creative output. I have dozens and dozens and dozens of songs that I've reached out to, you know, our friends in the reggae genre, and asked people to write songs on these rhythms, send me vocals, mix it. So I've got an entire catalog of reggae records that we're going to put out at some point as well.
Wow.
So yeah, man, when you're open to it, even in the wake of tragedy, if you remain open, a lot of things can show up.
The first single was The Better It Gets. It has this really great 70s vibe to it. I can definitely feel that influence.
I can't help that.
I didn't know what to expect when I first started listening to it, and I have to say it wasn't love at first listen, but that's a good thing for me.
What were you expecting?
I don't know. I haven't heard. I haven't been caught up, so there was a whole gap for me. And when I like something too quickly, I tend to leave it quickly.
Mm-hmm.
When something grows on me, it stays for a long time.
Right.
So I re-listened to it again this morning, and it's like, man, this is really growing on me. And I could even picture, was it the Bruce Dickinson saying, "More cowbell," out of all these things. But it's really this great. It's like going back in time, but making it so much more relevant now. Just bringing back more simple times. I think this is what this whole experience, this pandemic, is doing is making us simplify our lives and seeing what is more important. You know, it's not
You
about
made an interesting observation earlier. It really is like, for us in this little compound here, this is kind of like the second time we're going through this. That self-quarantining, letting the rest of the world do what it's doing. We have no idea what's happening beyond our gate here, you know. We've been through this already. So this suits us quite well. I mean, I'm well equipped to survive the pandemic. It it gives me a great it's a mental burden knowing that there are people out there who are suffering. That is a massive difference. The our previous quarantining was like, I don't care what's happening in the rest of the world. It's only what happens within our gates that matters. Now we're fine here, but just knowing that there are, you know, a person has to have that empathy and sympathy and all of that, just, and be mindful of what people are going through, especially healthcare workers. I mean, this is getting said over and over again. Hey, let's, you know, cheer on our frontline healthcare workers. Man, we have no idea what the, yeah, I mean, that's like the army, man. They're going at you, they're getting shot at. We don't run those risks the way they do, you know. And people who do get sick and are suffering, man, that is nothing to, you know, I can't, I can't take the position of people who are holding up signs and protests saying, I need a haircut. Are you kidding me? Look at, you know, needs a haircut. I cut my own. I mean,
that's awesome.
I'll go with this to
Yeah.
say, you know what? I can take care of my own hair. Thanks. You know what I mean? It looks like this, but it's not. None of that is worth it. I mean, I'll deal with shortages at the grocery store. I'll learn to cook turnips, like whatever. That's just, these are very small problems compared to what could be happening out there. And people saying like, oh, this is not as bad as this disease. It's not as bad as that one. It's not as bad as, like, you don't want to see what that's like. Come on, man. Let's just,
Not a gamble worth taking.
oof.
The
Yeah, it weighs heavily on me. That is a big difference. Like I said, we're fine here. I got my studio up and running. I can create all day. I
the
do all the cooking. I'm happy to have my family around me all the time. But it's that extra mental weight of knowing that, you know, we're not alone on this planet, man. There's people out there that are good people that are getting hit, you know.
so you have this new album. Normally, you'd be touring. So it's kind of like if you're prepared this
There is that.
meal. I know you're a chef. It's like you prepare this delicious meal and then your guests can't make it. How do you feel about not being able to tour right now?
Well, how should one feel? I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. So I got to kind of let it go. I remember when it was only a couple of weeks ago now. Seems like eternity, but it's only a few weeks ago where the shelter in place order first came down, and I started getting panicked emails from everybody in my band and crew saying, hey, like, I know all this is going down, but I really need to know about those May dates. I really need to know. Like, you need to know. Wow, you do. Just you. Okay. I just, you know, I kind of just said to everybody, take whatever work you can get. I'm not going to hold you to it because I'm not leaving the yard. I'm not going to go and do anything. I'm not going to play. We probably won't play the rest of this year. Just get used to that idea, because why fight it? it's not what any of us would prefer, but we're not in charge of this, man. Like, just gotta let it go. And I just hope all my guys are okay, and that people have some savings, and that they've budgeted well, and they're tucked in and able to weather the storm, but there's nothing. I don't have any. Anyway, it seems like rock star problems to me. It's like, oh, summer festivals are canceled. I mean, that's our income for the whole year. But why mourn for concert season? You know what I mean? It's like, it'll come back. Just give it time, man. It'll come back. It'll be just as much fun when we do it.
In fact,
so just let it go.
Having this pause might make it even more special, because we'll
hopefully
the moments more. Maybe people won't be behind their phones as much. Actually living the moment, because
maybe
if you watch a streaming concert now, you can be behind a phone and watch a concert, but it's not the same as being there live.
Yeah.
And I know that creativity is not something you can contain. You yourself, you're very similar to a friend of mine whom you actually met once. Funny story. Might not talk about it, but you met a friend of mine, and he's also a great guitarist, and he's got like the perfect pitch. He can pick any instrument and just start playing. And he also became a chef, and he basically cooks.
Oh, wow.
I find creativity, you cannot keep it in. If it's not music, it's something else. And
right.
What are you known for? What's your specialty when you're creating this culinary masterpiece?
Oh, at first my whole family was like, oh my God, but what about going to this restaurant? What about this restaurant? What about, oh my God, now we're not going to get to, you take for granted how much we travel, my wife and I especially, how much we travel, and in every city we have these great culinary experiences, and we find the best coffee, and on and on and on. And when that's out of the equation, that's when you realize, oh man, we were quite used to that. So that, okay, well, we're not going to get good Thai food here, so I'll experiment with that. And I got really good at that. Chinese. Okay, some different regional Chinese. Let's get into that. Italian's always been a specialty, but even there, I've had to delve into my recipe cache, go a little deeper, because when it's 7 nights a week, every week, you got to come up with some moves, like red sauce and noodles isn't going to cut it every night. So no, man, I've gone pretty deeply into it. I was already pretty deep into it, but this has just given me a whole new inspiration. And I've got a couple of pals, the guys in Wide Mouth Mason. We toured together for years, and they remained really great friends. And that little trio of dudes, it's almost on a daily basis that there's really sexy dinner photos. There's some iPhone 11 soft focus, beautifully staged. Dinner hits the table at my house, and everyone's like, can we eat yet? Or is the photo shoot done yet? Are you done? Like, ooh, caramelized onions. Look at that. Could you just cook the food, or are you going to take pictures of the food? So there's that going on.
You brought your wife out. It's your wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
Alex, into the conversation. Yeah. By the way, my wife saw her at an interview this morning. I guess we were watching an interview from a couple months back, and she wants to know what your wife's skin routine is, because she says it's amazing. So her compliments to your wife's skin, and just, she says, is
yeah, amazing. She's almost my age, and I don't look as young as her. People are going to start accusing me of having a trophy wife. That's all right.
I've interviewed a couple couples that have collaborated together. The Royal Foundry, there was Rain Maida and Chantal. And there is a different dynamic when you're working with someone that's so close. Do you feel that you're able to, have a compartmentalized relationship where, like, okay, this is the music, and if you do something I'm not liking, I'm going to tell you, where it won't affect the personal life? How's that working?
Oh, that's a myth. There's no way to separate church and state there. Yeah, I mean, she's honest enough with me that, yeah, no, she'll just have out with it and say, oh, yeah, no, maybe you should do something different. And I can be like, what are you, how dare you? What are you saying? It's your wife. You know, you got to take it at face value. So there's definitely been more good than bad on that end, though, in terms of, you know, if I can write something that makes her stop in her tracks and go, wow, it's got to be really good, because she's been around almost from the beginning. You know, she's heard everything throughout the creative process. She's heard the beginnings of great things and the stuff that has stood the test of time, songs that are still relevant 20, 30 years later. She remembers what that creative process was like, so she can spot a winner, you know.
She's seen it at your best, she's seen it at your worst.
She's seen a lot of both.
Mm-hmm. Love is Alive was the second single off the new album. Is that related to anything personal?
No, yeah, every song on there, even if there are cover songs, we only play cover songs that bear some connection to our experience. You know, I'd always maintain that, and I think that comes from my love of blues music and folk music and things like that. You really can only sell the stuff that you have a real connection to, you know, lyrically. And that's a song that, you know, I remember from being a kid. I loved that song when it came out. When I was a kid on AM radio, we used to hear that every day, man. I love that. That's just one of those tunes that I'd had in the back of my mind for the longest time, thinking, man, Big Sugar would crush this. That'd be a good one. And it was always down in the back of my mind, kind of like Let It Ride and Dear Mr. Fantasy. There's just a couple of those songs like, nobody covers these ones. No one's digging these up. Let's just keep that one in mind. And I happened to be in Red Deer, Alberta, in a secondhand store, looking at hats and scarves or something, you know, like old used clothing that someone had kind of fancied up, you know. And this woman had a cassette player, like a cassette boombox, and she was playing Gerry Wright out of a cassette deck. And I was in the store and I thought, man, that sounds good. What are you listening to? I know this record. What record is this? And it was Dreamweaver, Gerry Wright. So she played the whole record, and while I was in the store, I heard that whole record go down. I thought, that's it, man. That's a sign. We gotta cut that one. And we went studio and cut that pretty soon after. And of course, you know, after we recorded it, I had friends from Colin James, Chris Robinson, just people calling me up and saying, oh man, we were gonna cover that. I'm like, were you? Were you?
Late.
Well, you didn't do it.
That's awesome. So the album is done now. If we want to, I definitely have to get it on vinyl to add to my collection. So
Vinyl is hot, man. It's just like fluorescent blue, beautiful. They match the actual vinyl to the artwork. Yeah, man. No, it's hot.
I saw it on Instagram. I saw you and your wife taking it out, I guess, for the first time. So.
Oh yeah.
How can people get a hold of it? Because you can't go to stores that much.
No, it can be ordered. It definitely can be ordered online from Music Vaults. I don't have the.
I'll get the link for it, and I'll put it up in the article.
Yeah, Jennifer Knox at Universal can definitely get you that, because it's already, our pre-sales are really, really good right now. Like they don't even have stock of it yet, I don't think. And yeah, the pre-orders are. And that's one good thing, is that people are now getting used to the idea. If they were already used to shopping online, now if you want band merch, you got to buy it online. So
cool. Well, thank you so much. I don't want to keep you too much longer.